There's about to be a huge debate over the next couple of weeks about which three-loss SEC team deserves a spot in the college football playoffs. Is it Ole Miss, Alabama, or South Carolina? I think that the answer is pretty clear that the Gamecocks deserve to be in the playoffs. The playoffs is all about picking the best 12 teams in the nation, right? You mean to tell me that South Carolina quietly hasn't become the hottest team in college football over the past month? They now are winners of 6 straight. Lenore Sellers has scored 16 touchdowns during this win streak, and he is the hottest quarterback in the nation right now. Lenore Sellers potentially could be a Heisman finalist next year. As absurd as that may be to say right now, he's been freaking on fire. Everything we thought Anthony Richardson would have been at Florida is what Lenore Sellers is at South Carolina. Not only is he a fantastic athlete, but he's also quietly become a really prolific passer. I've never seen a quarterback develop in season. Like Lenore Sellers went from a guy who you might have wanted to bench early during the season to becoming the best quarterback in the SEC. Because let me ask you something. Who is going to be the best quarterback in the SEC next year? I would pick Lenore Sellers. He's outplayed Nico Iamaleava. He's outplayed Jackson Arnold. Like all of the guys who are slated to be returning starters next year, Lenore Sellers has outplayed tremendously. They have a great defense. Dylan Stewart, a bunch of guys on that defensive line are really good at generating pressure on the quarterback. You know, they got an experienced secondary. South Carolina is the prime example about it's not how you start, it's about how you finish. And that's why it doesn't matter if they lost to Ole Miss and Alabama. Right now, you can make the argument that South Carolina is the better of the 3 teams between all of them. You know, Ole Miss and Alabama are not the same team now as what they were when they beat the Gamecocks. If the Gamecocks were to run it back with those 2 squads, they probably would win. Head-to-head only matters when you're not losing in teams that you're supposed to beat. All of South Carolina's losses this year have come to ranked teams. They didn't lose to any team that they had no business losing to, rather it be at home or on the road. Ole Miss lost to the worst team in the SEC this year, that being Kentucky. You don't get a pass for that, even if you did beat South Carolina, because look what you did recently. And this is what this is about. You can't say that the same team that beat South Carolina at the start of the season is the same team that beat them now, because they're not. It's been a tale of 2 seasons for both Ole Miss and Alabama. You have to judge teams for who they are in the moment, not for what they were at the time they lost. And at the time South Carolina lost, Lenore Sellers was struggling. They weren't really that good. And now, at the end of week 14, South Carolina has become the hottest team in the nation. You don't get a pass for being in the playoffs over South Carolina when they've outplayed you the second half of the season. F the head-to-head. Who cares about the head-to-head when you're dropping games to teams that you have no business losing to? And you know what pisses me off the most about this discussion? I hate these stupid SEC hypotheticals. Well, Alabama, if they will play South Carolina again on a neutral field, they will be favored. Who cares about who will be favored on a freaking neutral field? Wasn't Alabama favored on the road against Oklahoma? How did that play out? Wasn't Ole Miss a favorite on the road against Florida? How did that play out? So who cares about these damn hypotheticals? That's why you play the games, people. South Carolina deserves to be in the playoffs. If it comes down to that final playoff spot being South Carolina or Ole Miss or Bama, South Carolina deserves to be in because they've played better football than what those other teams have to close out the season. South Carolina didn't lose to none of the worst teams in the SEC this year. And they also are 7th in strength of schedule. They've played a higher difficulty schedule than what Penn State, Notre Dame, Indiana, and Oregon have. They have wins against Clemson, Missouri, Even though Missouri is mid, they shouldn't be ranked in the CFP top 25. They still are some way, somehow. They count in Texas A&M. So they got quality wins and quality losses. What's the argument that we're making? Well, Alabama, they beat Georgia. Oh, cool. You beat Georgia and you lost to Vanderbilt. You lost to Oklahoma. Come on now. Whoa, Miss, they dominated Georgia. Okay, cool. And what did they do after? They lost to Florida. I care about what you've done recently. What you've done recently gives everybody a better picture of who you are. You can't say that you are one of the best 12 teams in college football because you beat South Carolina early during the season when during the second half of the season, you look like an above average SEC team. South Carolina should be in the playoffs. And I would be really upset if they don't make it.